Okay guys, so today we're going to be talking about my pagan to Christian transference. Now this is the last video in the series of how I got to where I am. And I did have to write it down because it's been a while since I've been a pagan, and I had to write down how, what exactly was it, like really pinpoint it, okay? So basically for me there are like three big things. Let's see. Yeah. Alright, so here's one thing I did want to cover with you guys first. I did not grow up in what you would consider to be like a Christian home. I did grow up in a home with two Christians, but it wasn't what you would consider to be a Christian home. So, you can take that into account whenever you listen to this. I do not consider myself as raised in a Christian home. So another thing to take into account as far as coming from coming from paganism into Christian is that I was baptized into the charismatic Pentecostal Church. For me, what that brought to me was basically they're really good at making you feel like you have a family or a home. All of those things that people like me can basically feel like they're missing. That was in 2002, and then my journey began from there. So having said that, that gives you a little bit of background as to kind of how I got here as well. Just another piece of the puzzle to kind of sort of see. I know it's been kind of maybe confusing a little bit, so I'm trying to sort of clear some things up. So I started to turn my life around once I started getting into the Pentecostal Church, and that was because of a guy I was engaged to at the time, and that didn't work out and we ended up breaking up. I think on purpose, I think that God had different plans for us than what we thought was good. So I'm going to start over here. There's two of the biggest things that happened to me, right? Okay. So the first one, the biggest one, is how Christians talked about their relationship with Him, right? So, they say things like, I spoke to Him and I was comforted. They say things like, God said this will work and I tried it and it did. And they also said things like, I'll pray for you. So I'm upset about something. They said, I'll pray for you. And then things started happening in my life. After they're like, oh, well, I'll pray for you. Things started straightening up, or I started understanding things better, things like that. The last thing that they did, and this may seem insignificant, but at the time I was really on a kick on love. A lot of times the world says love is not definable, it's just a feeling, that's all you can say about it. Love is different for everyone, love is just love, and everybody just sort of knows what it is. Different religions did not have this answer. Christianity is the only place where you can find an answer for what love is. I mean, to me, that was a big deal to be able to define love, because science says it's just chemicals, it doesn't matter. Other religions says it's a great mystery and no one can know what love is. Everyone has to define it and then experience it on their own. And then Christianity says love is this. And love is faithful, it's kind, it doesn't keep track of your wrongs, it doesn't, all of those things. So it really defined things for me. I really started to see and understand that Christianity, or at least the Bible, I'll say the Bible, had answers that no one else had. And they didn't seem wrong, they didn't seem like that wasn't right. It seemed like whoever, at this time I didn't really believe in God, so whoever wrote the Bible seemed to understand life, how to live it, what was best, how in the world, all of these things worked. So that was the four things that really sort of got my attention, kept me coming back, kept me understanding that, hey, this is not just random, Christianity is real, and these are some ways that He made it real to me. So the other big thing is His actions in my life. So I tried to kill myself a couple times, and both times it was God that stopped me. So the first time, I didn't really get anywhere with it because it's like I couldn't find a time to do it or whatever. But there's this other voice telling me, you know, don't do this. It's okay. It's not going to turn into what you think it's going to turn into. Sorry, my dog's walking around. So there was that. The second time, I was well on my way to getting the deed done, and there was like a presence in the room with me that was positive and loving and said, don't do this, things are going to get better, you just don't know what's going to happen in your future, you don't know what's in store, is what I was told, basically. So, and then my family ended up coming home earlier than what they were supposed to, and that was something that wasn't supposed to happen either. So it's just sort of like all of these things sort of happened on that night, and I didn't end up dying. So that was a big deal to me because I was basically done. I had made my decision to do this. I said screw it all and was like goodbye. And so that was a pretty big one, the way he interacted with me. The second one that was also, they're kind of equally important because they equally made me sort of swivel my head towards, you know, okay, not paganism. As a pagan, my spells did not work on Christians. So Christians would say they'd pray for me, right? And then positive things would happen for me. And then, so I would think to myself, okay, so I'm going to cast a good spell, like a luck spell, or a spell that will give them a good day or whatever. And it never worked. Not once. To this day, I'm not really sure I understand why the forgetfulness spell worked on my parents, because supposedly they were Christians. But after that, none of my spells would work on any Christians who were like, I'll pray for you, I'll pray for you, this is what Jesus says, this is the way I'm trying to live my life. These people who are out there living it and doing what they were supposed to do, those people I couldn't cast anything on, not good, not bad, not just sort of random, nothing. None of it worked. You hear this from other pagans as well, where they're out there to do X, Y, and Z, and they cannot influence the Christians in any way. Their spells do not work. They're not allowed to do things like body hop into them. They're totally off limits. So why would that be? You know what I mean? What is it about Christians that makes them off limits? So that was a real eye-opener for me when I'm supposed to be following the most powerful being in the world, the thing that created all of the universe, and there's a set of people that is off limits to me, or to us all basically. At that point I was pagan, so to us all. So it made me question it. The third thing was the stability and the prosperity I saw in their homes and in their churches, right? So what I mean by that is this. They weren't perfect, but what they did do very often was, if there were arguments, they were settled. If there were, and they didn't last 5 days. Like in my household, it was not unusual for one argument to last 3 to 6 days. These people did not have that, okay? When I would go to their homes, they were all fairly well off. They were all getting along, and when they didn't get along, like I said, it was a conversation. It was just, we're not going to do this, and the parents had, control in their homes. So things were organized, they were neat. I never went to a Christian house where it was like, we're just going to leave crap on the floor, and we're just going to let it build up. There was sort of this idea that, hey, we care about ourselves, we care about other people. In most Christian homes, if I was I'm the friend coming over, they were quite gracious to me, which is not something I received in my non-Christian friend homes. Usually the parents, if they were around, did not stick around. They were there long enough to see, hey, I was there, and then they were gone. So, again, these are my experiences. Your experience may be different, but there it is. Anytime someone tried to be motherly towards me, It was not people who did not believe in God, or and it was not people who believed in sort of like other God than Christianity. It was always the Christian people. So I was treated very well by them, and that made a difference to me. People prayed for me, and that made a difference to me. You know, this interaction that I'm talking about here, it makes a difference to people who are living it the way I was living. So, you know, it was just the way I was treated, and I was treated well. I was not treated, you know, like I didn't matter, which I'm not blaming my parents. I'm not saying one way or the other. Very often, though, I did feel that I did not matter to them. So receiving that in a Christian home was totally mind-blowing, and I don't even to this day know what to do with it. So that's my story, guys.